by. So the alignment, the key word. We want to work in an organization like this, right? This one is too frustrating, confusing.
But it's
Yes,
common because all those random arrows
Right.
can represent things like the HR system. They have their objectives and goals, and they're working in this direction. And the procurement system's working in the logistics and the quality management and so forth. And all of them don't have the tie to the overall mission,
Right.
objectives, and goals, even though they may say they do.
A lot of silos.
Yeah.
Silos working here.
So they think they've got alignment, but it's alignment in their own system.
Right. Rob, going back to Bohannon, Houston, Brian Burnett was just thrilled when Friesen Nichols out of Dallas last year received a Baldrige Award, because here's a company that does similar work to Bohannon, Houston. And Brian and his senior leaders have had an opportunity to Bob Pence, their CEO, spoke at our event last year. And then not too long ago, in the fall, some of the leaders from Bohannon, Houston went to visit Friesen Nichols. Any learning that Brian brought back?
Just the main thing I said was just simplify. I think we've been big on alignment, but sometimes an impediment to alignment may be the complexity of what you're trying to do in Baldrige or ISO or whatever the case might be, and simplifying the message so that people really understand what the values and the mission and goals were. We went to a one-page business plan so that our entire staff could understand that. And Friesen Nichols said we need to even simplify more.
And so that's nice to meet you, Marlene.
Take yours.
So that's the challenge, isn't it? Simplification. Simplification is not easy.
Well,
Right.
and a complicating factor is if you have a lot of different customers, or even if one customer has a lot of different projects inside, they may want you to do specific things that break down that alignment. This customer wants you to use this system of theirs, whereas this other one wants some other system. So you're facing a dilemma again. So if you've got any solutions to dealing with that,
And I mentioned Friesen Nichols because here's an opportunity for all of us to learn from Baldrige Award recipients. They share best practices. And I remember when, again, Friesen Nichols received, with notification went out last year, Brian immediately wrote a letter to the CEO saying, wow, someone doing similar work. I must tell you that a lot of times, Jim, you and Graham, of course, know, and Bob, that a lot of times people say we're different. We're different. This doesn't apply to us. Everybody says that, right? We have a funeral home in New Mexico involved in this process now. Okay? They're at the Roadrunner level from a couple years ago, French funeral home. So this applies, we all have customers, we all have employees, we all have budgets, we all have processes, we all can improve. This is the framework, the excellence framework that many of you are familiar with. The excellence framework, systems perspective, managing the entire business. I always think, when I think about a systems perspective, I always think about my system here. If I have a headache, my whole body hurts. If my foot hurts, my whole body hurts. The same thing with our businesses and our organizations. If the leadership is weak, is not communicating, the whole system works. If there's an issue with any of these pieces here, the strategic planning, the customer, the workforce operations, results, and of course category 4 is the brain power here, the measurement, analysis, and knowledge management. If one of the pieces is weak, hurting, the whole system hurts. And the same thing with my body. If I have a stomach ache, I'm not in sync, I'm not together. So this is the template that Don Chalmers says, this is the template to run my business. And Don, for example, is another leader who is so committed to this process. He and I have met with many leaders, have lunch, and I sit there just listening, and Don just talks about the value of the process and how they have all the processes documented on their web, and he says, and no longer is it if a manager has a bad day, or if I have a bad day, or any of them have a bad day, to say, how do you do this? Well, you go to the web. This is the way we do it, whether it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. So another great champion there. This is a template.
He's so committed that he's appointed his quality manager, Steve Head, to spend all his time, as much time as he needs, on QM and Baldridge.
And they, Don Chalmers received the Z Award in 2005. They've applied for the Baldridge Award twice, got a site visit. And I know that Don says it's not a matter of if we get the Baldridge Award, it's a matter of when we get the Baldridge Award. And again, great carrot, a milestone to receive national excellence, and also for the marketing piece, and also being a role model, or considered a role model organization. These are the core values, concepts that are the foundation of the criteria for performance excellence. Systems perspective, customer-driven excellence, all these that are close and dear to our hearts. Any comment on any of these? Managing for innovation?
Just that last
Yes, sir.
system perspective, we all know
Yeah.
that all it takes is one part of the system not to be performing well, and it can throw everything off.
One of the things that we hear Baldridge Award recipients also say, you know, you get a feedback report, and that's what those of you that served as examiners, by the way, we're going to be recruiting examiners soon, is that feedback report that you produce is invaluable, that companies use for their strategic planning. So it's not just the award and the recognition, but the value comes from the feedback that our examiners provide. And I remember when LA&B received their Baldridge Award, they said, you know, the application was 50 pages, their feedback report was 64 pages at the highest level. So strengths and opportunities for improvement in each of the 7 categories. So companies are using these feedback report as part of their strategic planning process. What are we going to focus on this year? We can't do everything, and we learn, right, as we mature. We can't do everything. Let's focus. Any comments on feedback reports that any of you have received and the value?
I am amazed, even in this day when ISO and Six Sigma and quality in general is supposed to be so highly sought after by corporate America. How many companies, first-line supervisors, are so amazed when I take time to compliment an employee's performance? It's like I'm the first one who said something like that.
Is that amazing?
It's
Is
so
that
amazing. This is a company that thinks that they have a quality program.
One of the things, Doug, that I just thought about when Don and I meet with business leaders is the message always is, this is hard. This is not easy. If it was easy, everyone would be doing it. And those of you in your companies, the work that you do, you know that this is not easy. And so the message Don relays is, but it's worth it. And it takes time and time and time and a lot of effort. And when you have all the employees working together, aligned, and talk about pride in the workplace, motivation,